Welcome to the Equestrian Mindset Academy Podcast, an equestrian performance podcast where we will deep dive into the mindset and management challenges of ourselves and of our peers. Our discussions will allow you to learn from experts, encourage you to set audacious goals, overcome challenges, and develop actionable plans. Ready? Let's do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I am now back from Africa. I actually ended up catching COVID while I was over there, probably from the planes, to be honest, where everyone is so tightly packed in the airport and on the plane. But I was quite tired and I needed a lot of rest while I was over there. But once I regained my strength, I was super excited to end the trip at one of my trainers' places. And I was super excited to come home to start working my horses again after all of my learning there. And I just wanted to say that it is amazing how much you can learn from watching and being immersed in what someone else is doing and how they work their horses. And it's really what I wanted to see. So I had honestly more than 25 pages of notes just in the first day and a bit. And I realized that there is another way of interacting with my horses in terms of rewarding them or paying them for their efforts. And I just cannot wait to try it and see any improvements. I also had a chance on the trip to reflect on my current business and think about some changes that I'm going to make over the next few months. And the first is going to be the name change. So you may have noticed today that I'm not calling the podcast My Stable Relationship anymore. I'm calling it the Equestrian Mindset Academy Podcast. And that's because over the next few months, I'm going to start releasing some online mindset programs for equestrians under the brand Equestrian Mindset Academy. So I just thought it makes sense for the podcast to reflect the same name so that everyone can find all of the resources under one name. So you'll see a slight change on my socials, but it'll still remain at Journey of Equine. And you'll see a slight change in the podcast listings, but I assure you it will remain the same format, the same topics of discussion, and we will have some outstanding guest episodes coming up and a super one coming up about an aspect of self-care that we all really need to learn. So make sure to stay tuned in for that. Today's topic is another follow-up from something that Lucy said in her guest episode that I really felt we needed to expand on and learn from. In the episode, Lucy noted that when you do something, it's you trying your best at that current time. She said that very few people go into something thinking that they'll do their worst, right? Particularly if we're speaking about the equestrian world, most people that we interact with are genuinely trying to do the best for their horses. With my clients, I call this concept their best current thinking. And I wanted to break it down further and really go into detail about this for you today. So firstly, what do I mean by best current thinking? I mean that you are trying your best with the information that you have at hand, with all the knowledge that you currently have. And the information that you have at hand can either be known or learned or felt. So it can be known from things like when you're at school or training or at your riding school, wherever, witnessed, it can be seen, experienced, or it can be felt, like a gut feel that something is right or wrong, rather than something you previously learned or experienced. As an example, I had a client that needed to decide whether or not her farrier was putting bar shoes on her horse, or if she was going to let the horse go barefoot with like a wedge and a boot for support instead. Now, she had to make that decision without being the world's leading expert in farriery and leading expert in hoof care practices. So she made the decision based on what felt right to her at the time, with the bits of information that she knew or that she had seen on bar shoes versus boots, and in consultation with her professionals supporting her. And making the decision with that bit of information, a bit of knowledge, and in consultation is really what best current thinking looks like. Following that example, in that same situation, it wouldn't have been best current thinking for her to know that her horse needed a change as recommended by professionals, bars or boots, whatever, and then decide to do nothing and change nothing for her horse. So it's all about best current thinking, doing your best, trying your hardest with the information you have at hand. Now, obviously that's not black and white, and there may be a situation where doing nothing was best current thinking. So stick with me. I know that everything is in the grey here, but I think you get the point. So how do you know that it's your best current thinking? Really clearly, if you were trying your hardest at the time, despite whether you think it's right or wrong now, it was the best you knew at the time, That's it. That was your best current thinking. It's that simple. I'll give you an example from when I used to train in a big dressage barn. I used to use draw reins. Now, if you use draw reins as a tool, that's okay. If you don't use draw reins as a tool, that's okay. Just remember again that everything you do needs to be your choice and you need to have a reason and feel good about it. So I used to use draw reins to train my horses for dressage. I was adjusting in this big dressage barn and everyone around me used them. And my instructor at the time used them and she trained me with them. It was how I was developing the top line and head carriage that I wanted. And my best current thinking was that I did need to develop this top line and this carriage for my horses to compete the best they could at dressage and to be best built and best developed, let's say. But since then, I've been through my own transformation of how I think, how I train, and what I believe. And in particular, how I interact with my horses' minds and bodies. And one of my choices in that transformation is that I no longer use draw reins, as well as a whole lot of other gadgets, but that doesn't matter. But that is my best current thinking. That aligns with my current knowledge and my current training system. And who knows, that could absolutely change in future. But for now, in this current moment, I believe that in doing that, I've made the best decision with my current knowledge to support my horses in their training. You also need to be careful that you can balance best current thinking solutions with other life factors. And what I mean by life factors is like money or time or what you can reasonably do, basically. So let's take that example from before with the bar shoes versus the boots. Maybe let's say my client's preference was to go with bar shoes based on her best current thinking, but she also knew that she couldn't afford the farrier every 6 weeks for a new custom set of shoes. So maybe then she chose the boots option. That's still best current thinking because she was still using her gut feel, her knowledge and her information about the hoof care options available, yet she had to manage her final decision against cost, right? Against cost, so against a financial factor. She's still doing the best she can with the information that she has, but she's balanced it with her life circumstances. So you can still be doing your best and still have to make trade-offs and compromises, as long as you're aware that you've done that, and as long as you're aware of the impacts and what those are, perfect. And then the really beautiful thing about best current thinking is the word current. So like I said before, you can update your thinking and your processes. How I went from draw reins to no draw reins. How I used to think that being barefoot was absolute rubbish, and I truly believe that all competition horses needed shoes. Whereas now, I look left and right and I see Grand Prix show jumpers and Grand Prix dressages who are all barefoot, and my thinking has totally changed. And you reserve the right to change your thinking, and you choose when to change. You will know. You will know when you update your thinking. You will know when the time's right and when you need to tweak and change. And then that will become your new best current thinking. So there's two really critical mindset components or mindset shifts that the concept of best current thinking has helped both myself and my clients make. Number one, it has helped us stop beating ourselves up over decisions that we've made in the past. Because as long as you can see that your past choices were your best current thinking, it allows you to forgive yourself and process the choices that you've made. It also makes you a little bit more understanding of why you made those decisions at that time. And on the flip side, you wouldn't beat someone else up for a decision that they made when they didn't know any better. And it should be the same for how we treat ourselves. So the concept of best current thinking helps my clients and myself look back into the past and understand that we were trying our hardest at the time. And although we wouldn't repeat that or do that again, we can give ourselves some grace. And the second mindset shift or mindset component that best current thinking has helped with is that it helps myself and my clients move out of standstill into action, to stop standing still and take action. I see people all the time who are not making decisions because they're waiting for the right answer. Best current thinking gives you permission and empowers you to take action and make a choice now with what you know. It really releases that pressure to be right And rather you understand that you can actually update what you're doing, or you can make a different choice in future. But if you're always waiting for the right answer, you will always be waiting. So I want you to think about it being your best current thinking, make a decision based on that, and know that you reserve the right to change in future. And these are two incredibly powerful mindset shifts that the concept of best current thinking has helped myself and my clients with. And I hope those will help you as well. Take some action or forgive yourself or give yourself some grace for past decisions. So your actionable takeaway from today is that, like I just said, we all reflect back on moments or methods from our past. So I want you to pick just one that you take yourself back to often, and you'll know what this situation is, because it'll be something that just pops into your mind when you do things that you think over and over, geez, I wish I could do that again because I wouldn't do X, Y, Z. And I want you to journal on the following question. How are you operating from your best current thinking? Now, this is really important. Again, my preference is to actually take paper and a pen and hand journal rather than just thinking about it or doing it on my phone. And I find that's because your hand will write down things that you didn't even know were in your mind, if just given a chance. Now, the other important thing here is that I haven't asked you if you were or were not in your best current thinking for the example, because some people struggle to give themselves the grace required, and our brains have a negativity bias. So I've asked you, how were you operating from your best current thinking? How? Because what I'm trying to do is force your brain to find the ways that you were, in fact, in a best current thinking state. Our brains also really love to seek answers to questions. So even if you're skeptical about how you felt, or if you were or were not operating from best current thinking, I'm still asking you to answer the question in the exact way that I phrased it. And you will be surprised with what your brain comes up with. So here's the question one more time. How were you operating from your best current thinking? Think of your one example from the past. How were you operating from your best current thinking? And if you'd like to take this work further, then it's time to go to my calendar and sign up for my discovery calls. So these are a chance to have a meet and greet with me, talk about your current circumstances and how performance, life, or mindset coaching might help you. You can book directly into my calendar. The link is in the show notes, or you can message me through my website or on social media at Journey of Equine, and I'll flick you the link. Now, we all know that our mindset impacts our horse training and that our horses pick up on our emotions and feelings so easily. My goal with this podcast is to use this type of mindset and management work to help you more effectively train or rehabilitate your horse. We will balance your life inside and outside of the arena so that you can find your version of a stable relationship. And with that, I just want to say thank you for tuning in today. Please subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you're listening on. And if you have been listening for a few episodes now, and if you have taken anything of value out of the podcast, I'd be very grateful if you could go on whichever platform you're on and make sure that you give me a rating and leave a comment if you'd like. I like to read them all. You can also follow me on the socials at Journey of Equine. The links are in the show notes. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you so much for listening. My goal is to help you more effectively train or rehabilitate your horse by focusing on your mindset and your management, both inside and outside of the arena. If this sounds like something you'd like one-on-one help with, or if you would like to follow along for more, come join me on Instagram or Facebook at Journey of Equine. The links will be in the show notes. Have a great week, everyone.